let's talk about, we said it, where we're wired and the sports that we know and the sports that we go to and winners, not potential winners, but actual winners. Let's talk about the Golden State Warriors for a second. I'm going to talk about the Golden State Warriors with you because a couple of things happened last night that really shocked me. And you want to talk about like the earth moving and volcanoes erupting and just end of the world kind of stuff. I saw that last night in the Mavericks Warriors game, and it wasn't Luka getting a triple double. I could see that happening. That was predictable. He always goes off against the Warriors, whether they win or lose, they won.
Right.
But Vinny, in an NBA game, in the fourth quarter, Steph Curry had the ball, and Steph Curry was called for traveling in an NBA. And it wasn't the first time it was called in the game. The NBA officials, wait for it, called traveling multiple times in a game, and it cost the Warriors an opportunity to win a game. Steve Kerr and Steph Curry talked about it after the game, and after they talked, I want to hear your response to this unbelievable world-altering event.
Bang bang situation. Dumb play by me to not take the layup. I got a little confused on what the time on the score was, honestly. Went for the hero shot. I didn't think it was a travel to the point where you don't let the play run out. But who am I to say?
Yeah, I mean, calls are calls. So some go your way, some don't. And, I guess the NBA is making an emphasis on plays like that. And I don't know if it was a travel or not. I haven't seen it, but it's going to be really interesting to see. Like, if we're going to call that now, we got to call it all the time because it happens 30 times a game. Guys change pivot feet, and so I'm really happy that the officials are going to emphasize it, but you got to be consistent with it.
Vinny, what are they doing? Traveling? What, like, first of all, did you think it was traveling, and what are they doing by emphasizing this right now?
Yes, it was traveling. Yes, he picked up the pivot foot by letter of the law. He picked up the pivot foot. Now, the thing that we always say about NBA refs is we don't want them to decide the game. We want the players to decide the game. We say, but we also say we want consistency. We don't know what we want. You know what I mean? We say, don't blow your whistle unless someone's getting mauled. But then if it's an obvious foul, but not a mauling, we look at the refs and say they're acting funny. And we say we don't want them to call traveling, but then we look at the refs funny when they call traveling on a star. And then we say, man, we don't need star treatment. So we as a basketball public, we as a sports viewing public have to be more consistent in what we want. I'm completely honest about how I get down. I'm completely honest about my sports sensibilities as a journalist and as an all-around basketball fan. I have learned from the days that Michael Jordan would blow by dudes and still take an extra step. Oh, he's going to get that call. That he can push off. Like, the greatest players get additional help even if they don't need it. I noticed Steve Kerr turning the page a little bit more and saying, and planting the seed. I felt like he was more planting a seed than anything else. Okay, if this is the way we're going to call it, make sure we're consistent in how we call it across the board. Because guess who we may have to play in the future? We may have to play Luka Doncic in the future, who's not the fastest dude, who may mess around with pivot feet. We may have to play a Ja Morant in the playoffs who goes to the basket and may take a liberty here or there. So that's where I think everyone winds up looking a bit hypocritical. But I can say, it don't bother me, but so much. Just don't insult my intelligence.
Yeah, you know what? I don't. I'm just so used to it. It's just like it just changes everything for me. It changes the way I watch basketball. I've gotten used to it, Vinny. Guys travel all the time. Steve Kerr was conservative. He said 30 times a game. I'm going to say probably 70 times a game.
Oh, it's not that bad.
Oh, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Between traveling, I'm gonna put it. Okay, I'll meet you at 45 if you allow me to include traveling and carrying. I was watching this. It's a true story, straight up, because I love going on YouTube and watching these old basketball games. 1965, 1966. Watching Wilt Chamberlain and Bill Russell. Early 70s, I like Kareem and Bob Lanier. I like watching these old games to see, how much does the game change? And I remember watching these guards. I'm like, what is this guard doing that I'm not used to? You know what it was? They were dribbling.
No.
They were dribbling. Hey man, like nobody, Sidney Moncrief wasn't doing that. They weren't doing it. That's what, right now, guys even carry the ball. We're so used to it. We're so desensitized to carrying. Guys will carry the ball even when they don't need to. They're bringing the ball up, calling out a play, looking at the bench. Oh, what? Oh, we running? Oh, fist? Okay. And they're just carrying the ball. And nobody says anything. It is just part of NBA life in the 21st century. So if you're going to call traveling and carrying, I honestly, this sounds ridiculous. I don't know if I'd enjoy the game as much. I like the pro. When the pros do it, that's just what they do. It
I'm
doesn't
far
happen
more
that much.
offended. I'm far more
Go ahead.
offended by the foul drawing. I'm more offended by wrapping your car around a tree and claiming insurance. You know what I mean? Like that's what I'm more offended by than whether somebody puts their hand on top of the ball or flips it or whatever. Like I'm not tripping off of that. Because when I was playing, I ain't had the biggest hands. So when it was time for me to boogie, okay, my hand was going to flip a little bit to the side. I didn't turn it all the way over, but yeah, you take a little liberty here and there. Now, I was never a big traveler. I'm not a huge fan of traveling, especially once they added the gather step to it. You understand it. As long as you're not taking 4 steps. Like 4 steps, all right, you are literally insulting my intelligence. If you let the ball go and you take a step and then you pick it back up and you take 2 more, that's average basketball lexicon at this point. I'm not going to quibble too much. I'm just not I wasn't a fan of the James Harden foul fest. I wasn't a huge fan of Trae Young kind of doing it a little bit. Like I will say, if you give the defense a chance by being a little more physical, I can take the carrying of the ball. I'll take that. It's a give and take for me. It's not a zero-sum proposition.
Yeah, it's just so standard now, and I think the officials, okay, great, go ahead and do it. It takes a lot, as you said off the top. I mean, this league is built on stars and star calls. As long as we've been watching basketball, that's just the way it is. No matter what era, if you're listening to us, watching us right now, no matter what era you're from, whether you start watching basketball 15 years ago or 50 years ago, it's always been like that in the NBA. The league has been built on stars and star calls. I just think it's amazing that the officials think they'll be able to do it with accuracy. It's so fast. Like I watched that Steph play. I'm like, okay, I guess it's traveling, but they're going to have a lot of opportunities in real time. Game's going to be close like it was last night. The stakes are going to be raised. You think you can catch that fast? I mean, the game, they're so quick. And it happened like Steph just did it. Boom, boom. Oh, all right. And how's that different?
Human error.
Human error
comes into
with
play.
Consistency? Right. Can you call it?
You can
think
try.
The officials will be able to call it with consistency and accuracy? I think they can be consistent. I don't think they'll be able to. I don't think they'll be accurate.
Well, here's the other thing. It's not the same refs working every game. So different refs have different interpretations of very, black and white rules and what they may allow to go by. I think more or less if every game is consistent, if within the game it's consistent, players will adjust. As opposed to from a night-to-night basis, you're saying, well, Steph was called for this the other night. Ja Morant should be called for this the next night. I think it's a little bit unrealistic. But I do think throughout the course of the game, like 10 travels were called last night. If you're setting the tone in the first few minutes that you're calling travels 4 times in the first 5, then you're gonna go to the huddle and talk to your guys and say, hey, guys, they're not letting it go tonight. Let's be extra tight in our space. And that way you can hold the players accountable. You can hold the officials accountable for being consistent within that micro period. But as far as from a standard 82 games across the board, every ref, every player, I think that's unfair. Now, when it gets to the playoffs, that's where we get a little bit more interesting, Michael Holley. Because I guarantee you,
right.
you can mark this down, Gary Carter. Mark this down, clip this, put this in a time capsule. A playoff game will be decided by a ref's interpretation of one of these calls, not just a foul or a spirit of the law or letter of the law, but one of these type of plays. A playoff game will be decided if, like you said, every game is going to be called this tightly. I think the reason that officials start letting stuff go, Michael, is because you can't call everything. It's like holding in the NFL. They hold on every play. But you're not calling holding on every play. It's like speeding. Are you gonna get me who's doing are you gonna get me who's doing 85 and a 70, or are you gonna get someone doing 75 and a 70? You're gonna get the person doing 75 and a 70. Usually.
Usually.
Not that I do 85.
Look, well, you just said you did. You just said it.
Metaphorically.
So,
metaphorically.
I appreciate your honesty. I appreciate that. I'm gonna tell you this. I will admit, I don't want to see it. Whatever I've said in the past about the officials, have been critical of them. I don't want you to call traveling. They called it 10 times. You're like, so 10 times they called it last night, 7 on the Warriors, including that one right there. And I watch it, and watching it, run it one more time. You won't be able to see it. You can't see it. I never wanted, here's my rule. Don't call it in the fourth quarter. If you want to travel, if you want to take 6 steps, it's okay. Don't call it. I don't want a game to be, but between the best players in the world to be determined by this little thing. That didn't even do much. And he was ready. Say he traveled. Defender, it didn't shake him. He was still there for the contest. So
he should have went for the layup. He should have went for the layup.
Yeah, and that's what he said. Hey, I'll give Steph credit. Steph, after the game, Steph is awesome. He really is. He's fun to watch, and he's fun to interview too. Because a lot of guys just won't really make themselves vulnerable in these situations to be like, well, I did what I did, and I'll live with the results. He said, no, I got confused. I was confused about the time and the game situation. He admitted that. He said, I went for a hero shot. I didn't need to. I should have driven for the layup. That's exactly what he said. He got a little confused in that game. So props to Steph for even
when you got 4 championships, you can afford some humility.
Okay. Well, my last thing I'll say before we take a break, champion, 4-time champion. Steph is a 4-time champion, correct?
Yes.
Draymond's a 4-time champion. He had double digits last night. That's not his game, but he did. I think he had 12 points. Okay, good. Klay Thompson is a 4-time champion. Klay Thompson, he had a shot at the buzzer to win it. He missed it. He missed that and a lot of other shots last night. And we've gone back and forth on this. A couple games ago, Klay was doing his thing. Made a bunch of threes, looked good. Looked like the old Klay. Last night, he looked like old Klay.
Old Klay.
Old. Old Klay. Meanwhile,
you're gonna have Natalie on your behind. Keep talking.
Meanwhile, Jonathan Kuminga had a double-double. That's my boy. He had a double-double. Not that it's not tit for tat. It's not that. Okay, I know it. I got it. But I think some of those young guys are on the bench. Kuminga, Jordan Poole. Old Klay's in the starting lineup. I'll just say it, man. Stop dancing around it. Why do the Warriors keep dancing around it? Put Klay on the bench. Put Klay on the bench.
Ooh.
Put him on the bench. Not as a punishment, as a reward. What do you think? It's a reward, Klay. The bench.
Nah, that ain't no reward. That ain't no reward.
You're the captain of the bench. You'll be the captain.
That ain't no reward. Don't do that. Don't insult that man.
Would you do it? Would you put him on the bench?
Not until I absolutely had to, and I don't have to right now.
You're scared. You're scared of him? You scared of the response?
Nah, it's just not necessary. it's not worth it. It's not worth what you wind up losing.
Okay. All right. You know what I'm gonna.
Speaking
you know
of-
what is worth it.
Speaking
You
of
know what
losing,
is worth it. I
speaking-
know.
What's that?
Yeah.
What's that?
We're on the same page. We're on the same page. You get your opportunity next. You get your opportunity. I'm gonna sit here. I'm gonna listen. I'm gonna listen and learn. Hey, thanks for watching Brother from Another on YouTube. Make sure you hit subscribe before you leave, and be sure to watch us 3 to 5 p.m. Eastern Time on Peacock. Appreciate you.